Hey everyone, I am Mr. Gaming Guitarist, and me and my best friend Keanu, we got to see Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, and I will give my thoughts on it, and then of course Keanu will go into detail because he's more of a fine wine cork sniffing film critic. But anyways, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I kept wondering, how are they gonna top each movie, and yet the previous one, and yet somehow they found a way to do it every single time. And it appears to be that this one will actually be the last one, or at the very least the last one in many years, probably because of Tom Cruise's deal that he just signed with Warner Brothers, leaving Paramount. But I will say the action scenes are great. The character development is fantastic, and I loved how you didn't even necessarily need to see the previous movie in order to understand this one. I love the throwbacks they made to the last scenes, to the previous movies. I love how they found a way to tie it all together, and they truly stuck the landing. And if you are a fan of blockbuster popcorn cinema with a giant, if you love giant spectacles where they actually stick the landing, something where you want to actually give Hollywood and tell them, oh wow, you can still do stuff that impresses people, you have to see this movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's completely perfect, but anything that I felt was bad was easily overtaken by how great the pure scope was. And I will only say the submarine and the airplane segments, you'll know them when you see them, but it delivered, and I give this a 9 out of 10. And now Keanu can actually tell you if there was something wrong with the movie. So now we are going to pass it now, where I'm the cameraman, and Keanu will tell you his thoughts on the movie.
I guess I'll just stand up for this one. I've been standing on my ass for like 3 hours. Jesus Christ. It's a long one. It's like 2 hours, 49 minutes now. For the record, I've seen a lot of long films in my time. The most recent longest film I saw was Oppenheimer. Of course, that was 3 hours. But while I really enjoyed the pacing of, something like, Oppenheimer, I don't feel like it quite justified it as much, or it quite pulled it off as well in this particular film, especially like in the first act, which is even slow for my taste. It's very, very, very slow. I understand that it's building a lot of things here and there, but that's kind of like one of my biggest cons about it. Now, before I get to, any more cons, I don't want to spell any doom and gloom, because I did enjoy it. But I will say, as you mentioned, the action sequences were fantastic. And the cast is always fun to watch. Tom Cruise is always great. The stakes are definitely high, which is, they're always high in these films, but even more so than usual for this particular film. So that's always fun to keep up with. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. Okay, I think right now I would probably sit at a solid 7, and the only thing I could take it higher is just thinking back to all those action sequences, which are all great in their own way, especially of course the big ones. And the callbacks, I'm kind of 50-50 on them, right? On one hand, it is cool to get a lot of those little flashbacks and callbacks. I think there's one long sequence where it's basically almost like a montage at the beginning of the film that I was actually fine with. I actually thought that was really cool. But there's a lot of times where they definitely pop up and you're just like, was that really necessary? It's just more so like, is it doing too much hand holding? You know what I mean? Like, there's some references that are fine and they're done tastefully, but some not as much. I don't know. I'm very conflicted on the callbacks, but I will say, if anything, worst case scenario, the action sequences alone, and the cast as well, I can't tell you how much I love the cast. That to me is enough to justify seeing this film. And honestly, even going out to the theater, especially in the format that we saw it in, which was an IMAX, and seeing those action sequences, the underwater one with the submarine and the plane sequence, it's still worth the price of admission. But as far as how I feel about the film ranked with the others, I think I still prefer Dead Reckoning over this one if I had to pick between the two. but I still.
I almost forgot what the name of the last one, which is why I said the previous one. Now I
Yeah.
remember it's Dead Reckoning.
Yeah, I still prefer that one. I feel like it was paced a little bit better, and even though I think the highs of this film definitely challenge the ones from Dead Reckoning, I think there's just too many lows to like, I don't know, to pick that over that one, you know. But no, I still enjoyed it. I still had a good time, especially seeing it on the big screen, popcorn, icy. Like, if you still get that full experience, I think you're still gonna have a good time with this film. I don't want to spell any doom and gloom. It's just, man, you know, everyone always sets high expectations for these kind of films, so I understand why people may feel a certain way if they maybe feel a little unsatisfied to some extent, but I still think it stuck the landing, though. I honestly do. That second act, I really enjoyed. The second act is probably arguably the strongest.
Yes, it
part of the
was.
whole film.
That was easily the best part. I don't know if I'm holding it right, but yeah.
You notice when it clicks. There's a moment
Yes.
in the film where something just clicks and like, okay, then the
Yep.
rest of the film, like, it's good.
Yep, I
But
get
it
that.
takes a while to
Yeah.
get there. So you just kind of
See, that's kind of what I was trying to think about is,
Yeah.
it did feel a little bit... Okay, I'm going to move it back to the front camera. Whoops. Okay, so I will say it was great. I like the pacing. That's probably why I would have given it a 9, just because the pacing wasn't that great. But like Keanu said, once the second act starts, it really gets going, and then
There's some
we're good
cool.
from there.
There's some cool editing choices here
Yeah.
and there. Sure, the editing overall could have been better, but as far as some of the creativity behind some of the editing, I thought that was actually really cool, all
Yeah.
things considered.
So
I will give it
pretty
points
much,
for that.
I would recommend it. So
Look, I'll still recommend it. It's just
Yeah.
you know, it falls
pretty
a
much,
little
if you
short.
liked any of the other Mission
still enjoyed
Impossible
it.
movies, you're gonna love this one. So, anyways,
Yeah, at the end of the day, like if you're a fan of this franchise, I mean, you should still go see it.
and the
honestly.
fact that they were able to keep it running for this long, for 30 years, or almost 30
Almost
years.
30, yeah.
Yeah, 96 is the first one.
Yep.
Like, this franchise has been going on since I was 2 and you were 1.5. Well, anyways, that's pretty much how we feel about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. All right, see you next time.
Okay,
Bye.
peace out, y'all.